one of the shortcuts we talk about in crucial conversations is the villain story. We draw negative conclusions about another person that creates strong emotions, and those strong emotions lead us to lead to poor actions and poor results, right? What I want to do is talk about the opposite end of the spectrum, not our negative stories, but our positive stories. Could our positive stories also be leading to problems, to poor results? That's what I want to talk about. All right, so back in the 1920s, a researcher by the name of Edward Thorndike, he did some interesting research in the military. He was looking at performance reviews. What he found was that if a commanding officer gave a high rating to a soldier in one area, say intelligence, he would then proceed to give a high rating across the board to that soldier. These were really high correlations. He would also be smart, and he would be loyal, he would be kind, and he would be a good leader, right? If a prominent characteristic was given to him, he would mark that soldier high marks across the board. He called this the halo effect, this idea, this propensity, this bias where we focus on a couple positive characteristics, and that colors our view of this person in a more general way. It's the halo effect. So, could this halo effect be causing us problems? And I would suggest that it does in a variety of areas. Why don't you think about hiring? If someone comes in, they're intelligent and they're charismatic, sometimes we conclude they're also going to be detail-oriented and collaborative. It influences our promotions, right? If someone wears the halo of stellar technical skills, we may also conclude that they're going to be good at managing people. Does it always work that way? No, their halo is affecting our judgment. This can happen in the realm of idea sharing. If someone is an expert in one category, we may overvalue their suggestions in an unrelated topic. So this is a concerning idea. We teach day in and day out that dialogue is the best path for producing results. I want to challenge the idea that getting everyone in the room, creating enough safety to exchange ideas is always the best pathway forward. I want to suggest that sometimes when the halo effect kicks in, dialogue can actually shrink the pool of shared meaning, right? People start to take on the conclusion of the person with the biggest halo in the room, right? So dialogue can create a smaller pool of shared meaning when the halo kicks in. I'm going to say that again. When the halo kicks in, dialogue can create a smaller pool of shared meaning. So what can we do? In the 1960s, a submarine called the Scorpion disappeared in the North Atlantic. The Navy looked for months and months, could not find this submarine. Finally, they got one of the chief scientists. He had a great idea. He said, I'm going to get experts from across the U.S. with a lot of expertise in various backgrounds. I'm going to get them together. I want them to estimate where they think the submarine landed, all right? Then what he did is he took their estimates, averaged them, and came within about 220 feet of the submarine. Now, the interesting thing about his approach is that he wanted to make sure that none of the experts talked to one another. He wanted them to not share their conclusions. He didn't want their conclusions to affect the conclusions of the other experts. This reminds me of the phenomenon of the coins in a jar. You have a group, and you have them estimate how many coins are in that jar. Individuals don't do so well, but when you average the group IQ, average the group estimates, it gets pretty close. The more you add, the closer it gets. An interesting study showed that if you have participants talk about it before they do their guesses, that group IQ goes down. Right? If you have them talk about their guesses, they start influencing one another and coming to similar conclusions. So Daniel Kahneman, a Nobel laureate, in economics, he's coined a term for this idea of collecting independent judgments. He calls this decorrelating error. Now, just as an aside, isn't that the nerdiest academic term you've ever heard? Doesn't it sound like something David Maxfield would come up with? I figure if I'm going to diss on one boss, I better do it to both. So back to decorrelating error. He suggests one way to overcome the halo effect is to collect judgment independent of one another. In fact, he suggests that we should be running more meetings that way, that we should provide people with all of the relevant background information, have them make conclusions, write them down on slips of paper, then show up to meetings and submit those slips as a way to make decisions that are less biased by other people. I actually tried this approach this winter. My friends and I do a lot of backcountry skiing, and one of the big dangers we have to watch out for are avalanches. So as we ski up the hill, we're looking for signs of instability in the snowpack. We're looking for wind. We're looking for recent slides. We're looking at how the layers are bonding to one another. And we need to make a decision. Is it safe to ski the slope we came to ski or not? So at the top of the hill, what we'd do is we'd say, on the count of 3, throw a 1 or a 2. All right, 1 meaning you think this slope is safe. 2 meaning, I don't think this slope is safe. We got to go back down the way we came. All right, so we'd do that. We would decorrelate error. We'd collect independent judgments, and doing so ensured that we weren't our charisma or excitement to ski wasn't influencing each other. It was a way to get a little bit more unbiased information as we made our decisions. I felt like we made some safe decisions doing so. So we talk about dialogue. We talk about getting people in the pool of shared meaning, making sure that they feel safe so they share. We expand our group IQ. Once again, I want to suggest there are instances where that may not be the best path to action. We do something called decorrelating error. We collect individual judgments. A couple conditions that might be relevant to make that decision would be if all of the background information, the relevant background information is available to people. If we can get them all the information they need to make a judgment, that is one condition where decorrelating error might make sense. We're working with large groups. It's a way to make quick decisions. But especially when there's big personalities, powerful bosses, charismatic coworkers that may be affecting dialogue through the halo, right? That might be one time to think about decorrelating error. We're all here tonight because we believe in dialogue. We know that through dialogue we can strengthen results, make fantastic decisions, and get more buy-in. We've seen it revolutionize our teams, our relationships, and in our organizations. What I hope you take away today is a fresh set of eyes to see when the power of dialogue is being diminished by the effects of a halo. And I hope you see decorrelating error as one more arrow in your quiver when you're trying to make the best decisions and move to action. Whether you're looking for a submarine, whether you're assessing the safety of a slope, whether you're in a high-stakes meeting, or whether you are working with those incredible angels in your lives that wear big, bright halos. Thank you so much.